Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, Lauren Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. Well, guys, it's time to pack up that Nintendo Switch and stop playing Nintendo for all time because Valve has outdone the Switch. They've destroyed the console. They've eclipsed Nintendo. They've beaten them at their own game. Their tablet, the Steam Deck, has demolished the Nintendo Switch in every single way possible with its incredible lineup of exclusive games that you can only play on the platform, like the option to pirate games if you don't want to pay for them, with the ability to mod them and put port on your console. Like, the Steam Deck is the true tablet for adults. And now, as of 2 days ago, we have confirmation that the Steam Deck from Valve, the biggest product since the iPhone, Valve's new technological wonder, we finally have a relatively concrete idea how many units it sold in the past 7 months. Valve Steam Deck has sold about 1 million units in 7 months. That is like tracking behind the Wii U. I think that's only just ahead of the Virtual Boy, Nintendo's worst performing console ever. Valve Steam Deck, it had a lot of hype. It had a lot of fanboys shilling for it. Even today, I have like a lot of steampunks like making reaction videos about how I'm like overreacting when it comes to like how overstating how big of a failure Valve Steam Deck is going to be. How nobody is saying that Steam Deck is going to destroy Nintendo or that it's going to be like the biggest product since the iPhone. Like, I have legit had people like rage at me about that, saying that like that's not something that's actually being said when it actually is. I have like the evidence for it. But again, this was supposed to be the big Nintendo Switch killer. This was like the big deal. This was supposed to be like this was supposed to be Valve like showing up to Nintendo's party, crashing it, and fucking like all the girls there, right? This was Valve was supposed to like beat Nintendo at their own game, right? They were going to be like the next big thing and make the Nintendo Switch obsolete, right? That was what the narrative was going into this. That was the narrative well after launch. And even now, I'm sure there are a lot of fanboys like downplaying it and ignoring this and like pretending it isn't true, or that like Valve simply hasn't shipped out enough Steam Decks yet, which is laughable. Like, are you really telling me they can't ship out like 20 million Steam Decks in like a year? Like, how many Switches sell in a year? Like 13? Like, Steam Deck couldn't ship out more than that. They're having problems like manufacturing them. No, what's actually happening is that there is no demand. There was never any real demand. The only reason people got a Valve Steam Deck is because they're just that big of Valve drones, and they do exist. Or two, and I think this is the more relevant reason, is that like steampunks were sick of like seeing Nintendo fans like just pick up their Switch and take it like on a train with them or something, right? Like, it's so much more convenient than having a laptop, and there's really no way to compete with that. Like, no matter how much they like try to decry and whine otherwise, like, oh, I don't go outside, I would never use the handheld mode. Like, it's still a very appealing feature for a lot of people, and a big reason why the Switch does so well. But like the Valve Steam Deck was supposed to be this thing that was supposed to like bridge the gap. So forget the fact that you already own like a $2,000 PC. Add in like an $800 tablet on top of that with like, you know, maxed out memory with all this shit. It could run all the AAA games that Switch can't, man. But like, you're really gonna spend that kind of money for games you can play already? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, Arlo kind of pointed this out when he did that like Elden Ring is better than Zelda video, where he acknowledged the fact that it was ridiculous that he bought like Elden Ring on both Steam and PS4 so he could like to use it on his Steam Deck. He was shilling the Steam Deck in that video, right? Like it really does feel like the only people who seriously acted like the Steam Deck could reasonably compete were YouTubers. And I was saying this from the beginning. It wasn't going to work out. It wasn't the price point isn't competitive. The library isn't there. The audience isn't there, right? There is no interest in this piece of technology. But no, everyone just kind of plugged their ears and just kind of ignored me or tried making fun of me or tried calling me a fanboy. Well, who's laughing now? 1 million units sold, selling worse than the Wii U. Okay, that's how bad it is. Selling worse than the Vita. Like even the Vita is like raping this thing's soul. Like I don't know exactly why people were so adamant that this thing was going to be a success because it so obviously wasn't. Like this is going to be, I think, another example of a long line of examples of just how many failures Valve has in their lineup when it comes to like their technology, right? The VR thing failed, like the Steam Box failed, the Steam controller failed. This is just another long line in that long string of failures. Like it needs to be understood among the gaming community is that like Valve cannot compete in the hardware space. They can't produce tech. They can't make it appealing. They can't sell it to normies. Like the issue is they have to compete with all these more viable companies that are way more well established than they. Like how many PC gamers do you know who actually use a Valve-produced controller for their Steam games, right? Everyone just uses an Xbox controller or maybe a DualShock. Like nobody uses the Valve one. Valve cannot produce hardware peripherals for even their own storefront. They are reliant on third-party developers in that regard. Like the only reason Valve is relevant, the only reason anyone cares about them is that they have a monopoly on PC gaming. Now, I've heard a lot of steampunks like deny this fact. Like they'll try to tell you that like, oh man, like no, I pirate all my games. Like there's good old games. There's there are alternate storefronts. Nobody uses them. Like, unless you're getting, like, the free games from the Epic Game Store, which I think is, like, a very, very, very small minority of people, to be honest with you, considering how often games go for, like, $5 on Steam itself. I don't see any of these platforms being relevant, like, viable, because nobody talks about them. Like, I think when the Cyberpunk 2077 came out, Good Old Games, which is owned by CD Projekt Red, I think that their stock dropped. I think people stopped trusting them after that. Like, and CD Projekt Red is, of course, always releasing their games on Steam because they know that people are not going to go to Good Old Games to buy like their exclusive AAA products. They have to release on Steam, the only viable PC gaming storefront, right? So, in a sense, I think. I've gone on record about this. I'll probably make another video about this in the future. It feels like the console war is over. Nintendo has essentially won. They've shut out all the competition. Companies that try to intrude on their space, like huge ones like Valve, Amazon, and Google, have like pretty consistently failed to introduce new hardware that could compete with Nintendo. Sony and Microsoft are out. It's only a matter of time, I think, until like the hardware division is kind of phased out. I think people are only kind of latching onto them because of brand loyalty at this point. But it's coming. It's coming. Nintendo has essentially won the console war. Well deserved, in my opinion. I've been waiting for this to happen since, honestly, probably before I was even born. Like this is like a big monumentous occasion for me. I'm happy that it's finally happened. Like I'm happy that like in the future kids won't be bullied for playing on Nintendo consoles. That's very satisfying for me. I'm really happy to see the good guys win in this situation. But again, why did it take so long? I don't think companies should have gone bankrupt over this. Like, I don't think that I think there should have been like a lot more pushback against. Okay, well, whatever. We'll get into this, how I feel about this and on another day. But like, my point is like now that the console war is over, the industry has shifted. So like you have the console, the only console on the market, Nintendo, competing with the only PC storefront, Valve, and they're competing with like phones and like other means of entertainment. I think phones are probably the big one there, but I think like eventually TVs might start being able to streaming games. I expect that's what's going to happen with Xbox Game Pass, is that it's just going to be like a standard service you can get through like any TV. There'll be like minor, small other services that are competing, but it's going to be those three, I think. Like the services transition, the console war has evolved to the next stage where like you have dedicated gaming platforms, you have PCs that can do a whole bunch of other things, and you have mobile. And I think most people are going to have all three. Like most people who like really like games are going to be able to like play mobile, play PC, or play Nintendo. Like I don't even like mobile or PC, but I do own both, right? Like I do have a phone, I do have a gaming PC, I do have a Switch, right? I think I think going forward that's going to be like the way things are structured. And honestly, it's the way things should be. Like each thing has its place, each thing has its utility, each thing has its functionality. There is no reason really to have a conflict between like consoles and PC, between Nintendo and Valve. Right. And I think like most people kind of feel that way because people have been like stating, people have been like big on like the PC and Switch master race since the generation started. But um, yeah, I do think all three platforms should coexist peacefully. I don't want like to harass PC gamers over their like preference of consoles. To be honest, I kind of expect that like going forward, there will be times where I will need to play a game on PC. Slitterhead, I don't think is coming out on console, and I'm so excited for that. I will probably check it out on Steam like day one. I like that. Like Tekken 8, yeah, I probably will get it on PC. I love Tekken on PC. You know, I might try like older games, like Dead or Alive 5. I've been thinking about checking out. Um, there are a lot of things I'm excited for in the future. And like considering I don't have like the raging, seething hatred of Valve that I do with PlayStation and Xbox, I think that like I can viably like honestly like not feel guilty about like giving them money occasionally for a game that I'm really excited for, Like with PlayStation and Xbox that I legit felt these companies were ruining video games. But with Valve's case, I'm sure they're not a very well run company. They have issues. I'm sure they're pushing diversity and shit like that. Like there are things about Valve I don't like, but like I don't hate them the way I hate Sony and PlayStation. Now that Sony and Xbox, I think that might change like in the future, like as I start utilizing Steam and start like using it more and stuff like that. But at the moment, I'm happy like at the way things are arranged, right? Like I like everything I'm using. I like the services. I like the way that things are, right? But I had no interest in picking up a Steam Deck. And I did not appreciate the fact that I was vilified for pointing out that fact. I think I even said that like I don't have anything against Valve, like when the Steam Deck was announced. But like people treat you condemning Valve for putting out like a poorly conceived piece of hardware as being like an attack on their favorite brand. All right. Like, or I think more accurately, they didn't like it the fact that I was shitting on them for shitting on Nintendo, which I think this was all really about, was just an attempt by the steampunks to come after Nintendo, and it didn't work. Pretty pathetically actually that it failed this badly. But yeah, I hope in the future that we can all get along and that we don't necessarily need this pointless drama. All right, like Valve just needs to stop putting out new hardware and just let Nintendo do their thing.